In this video, I want to talk about two inspection calls that I had recently that required thinking outside of the box. By the box, I mean the system and the equipment itself. Now, these two calls, I am protecting some people's privacy on here, so you'll see certain areas blocked out with a blue block, and that's because I'm trying to protect privacy. But I'm going to give you all the information we need to talk about these calls. Okay. Now, inspection call number one was mold growing on a ceiling of a third floor condo. I was asked to check the air conditioning system for problems. Again, everyone goes back to the air conditioning system as being the reason for possible biological growth. Inspection call number two, very similar. It's interesting these were the same day as well. Mold growing on a master bedroom wall and on closet wall under the air conditioning vent. Again, it was a check air conditioning system. So we can first of all, our first piece of information when we pull up outside a call is what's the construction like? Okay, what is it? Okay, this happens to be a condo complex. It's a 3-story condo, garage on ground level. It's a center unit. Newer construction, turns out it was about 3 years old. Pretty well maintained all the way through. Inspection 2, again, condo, 2-story condo, garage on ground level, and again, center unit. And that's important. Both of these are center units. You'll see why that's so important. No outside walls on either side. Okay, new construction and pretty well maintained. So the areas of concern, okay, when I did my walkthrough, the areas of concern that were pointed out to me was around the vents. Okay, now, if you just stopped at this one vent, you might think it has something to do with the air conditioning system, and it still might. Okay, but if you look around the ceiling, we're starting to have potential biological growth. And again, I say potential biological growth because it hasn't been tested yet through a laboratory. So you really can't say total biological growth. But let's do the potential biological growth. Basically, if you look around the ceiling, the edge of the ceiling and everything else like that, there's discoloration. Okay. Now, again, there's more discoloration, but what I really want you to look at is the patterns, and we're going to take a look at that as we go through this. Okay, so you have the patterns there. Okay, and let me see if I can get a pen here. You see the patterns around the fixtures, and if you look real closely, there's a pattern there. There's a pattern there. There's a pattern there. But there's all this area in here that looks like there's some growth starting, and this is really important. Closer look at the area of concern. Again, you see the dust patterns around the fixture. This is really important to notice when you're looking at this stuff. So, did an inspection on the system. Okay, I'm going to give you the basics here. We had a decent temperature split. Return air was 75 degree dry bulb, supply air 60.2. I have very close to a 15 degree temperature split. More importantly, the system was a 3-ton unit, and we're measuring out at a cooling load of 35,580. That's pretty close. We might be a little bit off on the airflow, and I'll show you why on a following picture. My supply static pressure is a 0.16. My return static pressure is a 0.78. This is extremely high. Okay, this is a problem. Turns out that there's a dirty filter. Okay, the data plate for the air handler says it's a 0.04 static that's required. Let me erase that right there. Okay, so if we look down here, okay, down right here on the data plate, we have a 0.04 static. Okay, we measured 0.16 on the supply, 0.78 on the return, add them together, Make sure you drop any signs that are there, like no negatives or positives. So we have a 0.94, okay? That's a little bit over double of what's expected. Okay, again, I do have a dirty filter in this system, so that's why that return static was so high. My supply static is actually pretty much in line. When that return goes down, that supply will go up as well. There's an ECM motor in this unit that is actually adjusting and trying to pull as much air as it needs. Okay, the return plenum is an open plenum. Okay, this whole closet that this is sitting in is part of the airflow. Okay, so the air goes up through here and comes up into the plenum through there. There's a duct on the ceiling, and there's an open return duct on the ceiling from someplace else in the house, and the closet door has louvers. Okay, outside pressures, nothing remarkable. Okay, I'm okay with that 9.1 degrees subcooling for this system. Nothing remarkable, nothing that's going to cause mold or anything like that, especially when my temperature split is decent and I am dehumidifying. Okay, though static pressure is high because of the dirty filter, we still have decent airflow and our temperature splits are not bad. System is cooling within 10% of its rating. Problem is not in the HVAC system, but where is it? Okay, we're going to have to look at the building envelope. But before we go there, let's take a look at inspection number 2. Again, I have mold or possible mold growing on a wall. Now, this wall is the wall between the units. Okay, so if I take my row of condos, and if I take a wall there and a wall there, this here is the unit I'm in. This is this wall, okay? So it's the left wall of the unit. Okay, so it's an inside wall between two conditioned spaces. Now, if you know much about building science and about how buildings are constructed, when I have a conditioned wall between two spaces, we have a tendency not to do any moisture barriers. We probably have insulation in this wall strictly for sound purposes. It's not designed like we would have exterior wall insulation for tightness of the building. Okay, this is primarily for sound. Another area of concern, again, more of the mold or possible mold growing on this wall. Okay, now, before I go further, I want to talk about this mold here. I'm going to ask a question. Is this surface mold or is this mold coming from the back? In other words, if I wipe this off right there, if I take and wipe that off, okay, am I going to be able to totally wipe it away, or is the mold growing through the sheetrock? We'll get back to that in a minute. Okay. Temperature split 13.6. Again, when you look down here, you'll note this is an open plenum return. It's another closet system where the closet door has louvers and all the return air pulls into the unit through the louvers in the door. Supply air, 0.19. Okay, return, 0.10. So I have a 0.29 static pressure. Again, I'm just making note there's an open plenum return. The filter's in here, and we're pulling air through, okay? This air handler has a design static pressure 0.2. So I'm at a 0.19 and a 0.10. I have a 0.29. Okay, again, I have a slightly dirty filter in here, but this is not enough to cause a dehumidification issue. Okay, outside unit, again, this is a Lennox piece of equipment. Subcooling's a little bit off, but again, I'm not going to do anything because the system does need to be cleaned. Okay, but nothing remarkable to write home about, nothing to really flag or call attention to. So again, though the static pressure is close enough based on supply and return duct at setup, problem's not in the HVAC system, but where is it? Okay, again, we need to take a look at the building envelope. So as I was saying with the inspection number 1, this is the ceiling damage. Okay, Look at the dark patterns near any ceiling fixtures. And this is something you want to do if you ever have to do one of these calls. Note the patterns around the lights and the exhaust fan. The patterns comes into the space, okay, around the lights. It comes into the space. If I had a problem just with the air conditioning system dehumidifying, I would be building up on it. Okay, I'm building up around things that have nothing to do with the air conditioning system itself. And I'm also starting to have some areas of concern on the ceiling as well. Okay, if you look here, there's starting to be areas of concern on the ceiling. Look close at the ceiling fixtures. Note the air patterns around the base. Again, a light fixture has nothing to do with the HVAC. Okay, so you could turn your back on this call and basically say it's not my equipment that's causing this, or you can look further and try to find the problem. So, with number one, what could cause the air from the attic to be pulled into a home? What could depressurize the house and cause moisture being pulled in like this? Duct leakage on the supply side? Yeah. If I have duct leakage on the supply side, I'm going to push all the air into the attic, okay, from the ductwork, and I'm going to have depressurization of the house. Lack of attic ventilation? Yeah, because if I have lack of attic ventilation, I'm not going to vent that humid air, hot air out of the attic, and I'm going to have pressure building up in the attic. Not enough ventilation for the air into the home for exhaust fans? That's a real possibility. Remember, if I'm running exhaust fans like at the cooktop, the bathroom exhaust fans, and any other type of exhaust, I have to have makeup air coming in to replace the air being pulled out. It's called air exchange. Okay, if I don't have enough ventilation air, okay, my air is going to be pulled into the home through infiltration, which is the uncontrolled movement of air. So for inspection number one, we got to do a blower door test on this house and a duct leakage test. Okay, I need to find out if the ducts are leaking. Okay, it will be supply duct leakage, even though based on those static pressures, I do doubt I have supply duct leakage. But we need a blower door test to check the house itself, the building envelope, to make sure we have either enough ventilation or we don't have a ton of infiltration in the wrong places. Okay, we also need somebody, I didn't put it on the slide, but we need someone to crawl up into the attic and verify the soffit vents. Okay, inspection number two, that's the one with the walls. Okay, note the growth on the wall. This is not surface growth. This is coming from the back side of it. And it's only happening on one wall of the condo. It's the wall separating, as I drew in that other picture, separating this unit from the neighbors. Now, we have a subject, hot and cold condensation, that we can talk about. Take a look at that glass. Okay, it's a glass of what used to be ice water sitting in a warmer room, because most of us keep our houses warmer than 32 degrees. Okay, and the outside of the glass is sweating. That's because I have a cold surface abutting a warmer, more humid area. So the water condenses on the outside of that glass. Now, interior walls do not have vapor barriers most of the time, except around bathrooms in good construction. If you have a cold glass of ice water sitting on a counter in a warm room, we get condensation. What happens if I have a wall that's cold on one side and hot on the other side? What happens? Okay, so again, draw my pretty little picture of my condo unit. Okay, unit A is the one that's being air conditioned. Unit B is this one separating side. This wall right here is separating unit A from unit B. Unit A I know is being air conditioned. Now, I played some 20 questions here and I found out that the neighbor only lives there part-time and does not run the air conditioning when they're not home. This wall is separating a cool area with air conditioning and a warm area with no air conditioning, and it does not have a moisture barrier. Okay, I'll show you why I know that. But it does not have a moisture barrier. So again, if I have my condo and I have cool here and warm here, this wall has the potential to condense. Okay, so I'm going to start having water droplets hanging out on the piece of sheetrock that's separating the hot and cold area. Now, this is a double wall also, which just adds to our little problem. Okay, but this wall here, okay, if it's not insulated properly and if it doesn't have a moisture barrier, it is going to start condensing on this side. Because it's like the glass of cold water. Think of this side here as the glass. Okay, and this side as the warm room. So I'm going to start having condensation. Once I have water on or dampness on a wall that's made of sheetrock, okay, I can have mold start to grow. Okay, so next step here was an attic inspection. Now, what I really want to find in an attic inspection, what I'm looking for is proper ventilation. Of course, I'm looking at the duct work. I'm looking at overall construction. This is in Florida, so we use flex duct for everything here. It's not right, but it's what the installers do. But what I want to see is the soffit vents. Okay, this is looking towards the front of the building, and I can see light. What I'm looking for is daylight. Okay, I can see daylight on the front of the building. And I can see I had 4 bays of soffit vents. Now, that's not a lot. The other thing I wanted to do was look at my sidewall insulation. Okay, again, a close look at this and some research on this shows that it's more for sound barrier and fire protection than anything else. Okay, the way this is fitted in, it's not airtight. Okay, it's slid in there mostly for sound protection. This is the wall against the neighboring unit's attic. Now, this is going to go all the way down. Okay, because this, again, there's sheetrock on this side. And if I looked at it from the neighbor's side, there would be sheetrock there. And this insulation is between the two. However, the way it's slid in is not airtight. Okay, so even if it was designed for actual insulation rather than sound insulation, it would not be an airtight situation the way this is put in. Now, I turned off the light in the attic, and I wanted to look for soffit vents on the back because I didn't see any when I had the light on, but I just want to verify that there's no soffit vents on the back side. So if I look along the back of the attic, which is right here where there should be soffit vents, I don't see any light whatsoever. So there's no soffit vents, or the soffit vents are blocked by the insulation, which is possible. Okay, it happens sometimes if they don't put in protection. So what are the conclusions? Okay, we need further inspection by a contractor. Okay, by a building contractor. In some parts of the country, licensing starts becoming a problem. So occasionally you have to refer this to somebody who's outside of your part of the trade. Okay, if you're an expert in HVAC or a mechanical expert, okay, or building envelope expert, you can do the initial inspection, okay, and you can figure out what's going wrong. But eventually you're going to go beyond your area of expertise, okay? And it's better to say to a customer, hey, we need to refer this to somebody else. Okay, because I can't fix this problem. I have an idea of what it is, but I can't fix it. Okay, we do know that it needs a blower door testing. We have to test this building envelope. And that includes the ductwork. We have to know if the ductwork is leaking. Okay, because again, in a 3-story condo or 2-story condo, the first floor is fed in ductwork between the floors. You can't inspect it. You have to use duct leakage testing. And of course, it's going to the mold is going to need to be remediated by a licensed professional. You cannot remediate mold. You don't want to take that liability. If it gets into the air, it's going to spread. So this set of tech notes, okay, I put together just to give you a thought process to go through if you see the same thing someplace in the field. Okay? Don't stop at the equipment. Don't say, oh, yeah, we just need to replace the equipment. Okay, because again, the problem's not going to go away with no matter what we do with the HVAC equipment. Because in this case, these issues are more a building envelope issue that needs to be fixed. Please take a moment and subscribe to the channel. The subscription button is near all the videos. It helps us out, those of us who are YouTube developers. It helps us greatly.